What's up, everyone? Kevin Allen here from DFS Army, and I am here to demonstrate a tutorial for the new DFS Army Domination Station League of Legends DraftKings tool. Now, we're launching this today, and if you're looking for the link on the Domination Station, it's not quite there yet. This is our beta server. Some things will change. I'm just really excited to get going with this right away and show you guys how to use this. But this is still a beta product. First real night of testing. This is not on our live server. It's going to move a lot slower tonight for me and for you guys who are using it than it will when we go live with it. But I was very excited to show you how this works. Now, before I get into the breakdown, I just want to say, what are we trying to do with League of Legends? We're trying to make stacked lineups. It's very similar to MLB and other sports. We've noticed over the last 3 weeks of large contests that the winning lineups are generally stacked. Most of the times it's a 4-3 stack, meaning 4 players from one team, 3 players from another team. It's pretty rare that those two teams will be facing one another. Not that it's never happened. It happened once. It happens some 5%, some very low percent of the time, and usually on a shorter slate, but it could happen. But that's not the kind of stack we're trying to create, although we have a provision to allow for it. So let me break down a couple of details and what we're looking at first, and then we'll get into how to create lineups. So you go to the Domination Station Optimizer. Right now, you see this is not the Domination Station web address. This is our developmental server, so you can go to that. Link is in the Domination Station channel in Slack. I just put it in the esports channel in Slack. It's in the beta testing DS beta testing channel in Slack as well, or just ask. We have been posting this link for anybody that wants to use this today. Within a day or two, this will be live on the actual Domination Station on the dfsarmy.com website. But I digress. Click on DraftKings, click on League of Legends, like the little video controller. That's the sign that's League of Legends. I love it. Go to classic type, and here we go. Tonight's slate. Now, the first thing that shows up is the games filter. Now, real quick, what you see here are the money line odds. A negative money line means that this team is favored. The bigger the number, the heavier the favorite. And we'll show you an implied win percentage, how that looks down on the main screen. But the first thing we want to just be aware of are who are the favorites and who are the underdogs. Team We is a favorite, LGD being an underdog, AF a favorite, and APK an underdog, BLG favorite, so on and so forth. So the team with the negative number is the favorite. The bigger the number, the heavier the favorite. Now, the second thing we know, just without anything else, is that LPL, this is a combined LPL-LCK slate, meaning Korea and China teams are both on the slate in different leagues. We've noticed that the LPL Chinese League players tend to score more. Not always, but they do. So one strategy is just, hey, let me just use LPL teams from the Chinese League. That's fine. In talking with Taco, there are definitely some Korean teams worth consideration. He mentioned KT. This is the smallest underdog on the entire card at 148 odds. And that's interesting for me because whenever you play an underdog, it does allow for some interesting things. So KT and HLE as underdogs carry some interest for me as well. So let's continue down. What are we looking at? Position filter, not super important. Same as always. Flex salary range, flex fantasy points range, full salary cap, how many lineups we're creating. I don't want to do 150 right now. It'll take forever to even show an example. So we'll cut this down to, let's say, 50. Actually, let's say 40. Okay, fine. Now, optimal tournament mode, not super important for this particular sport. Not this game. Unique players. I'm only using one unique in this sport, guys. I wish there were more contests available, Patrick. We could. I think we're going to see them. Unfortunately, there's only one mini max left. We missed the big one. That was too slow. But there's a $10 contest too. Now, a couple of other very important settings here before we get into showing how the tool works. Allow opposing teams in the same lineup. I don't want to use this except for special occasions where I want to stack a team and it's same team. So I might run 140 if I was making 150 and then run 10 sort of stacks with game stacks. I don't like game stacking for this, but we have seen it win at least one time since I've been watching esports. So it's something to pay attention to. If you want to allow it, you can check this button off. It's important to note that other optimizers just allow it automatically. It's one of the flaws other optimizers have. I'm glad we don't have that. I'm glad it's not allowed. Now, number 2, randomization. This is a very, very important tool for esports. We're actually going to build something into the domination station that will force random selection of teams in the next build. I rushed this one. I didn't want to wait. That was like for tomorrow, but I said, let's go live with this. We'll add that later, where essentially when you pick teams here, it will randomly select which ones. Currently it goes, it's projection driven. Now, when you have projection driven stacks, no matter how many teams you enable in your stacks, it's just going to choose the 2 kind of best projected. That's not what we want. We want to mix and match. Yeah, game stacking. Whenever you game stack, you want to have C9 in there, because they score a shitload of points. All right, so let's create stack lineups. I want to show you how it's done. Now, I should have closed this first. Now, when you're normally looking at the domination station, this is what it looks like. Here are your teams. Here are your players. There's a little button here that says enable team stacks. We want to click this, right? Now, we're going to set our stack rules. I want a 4-3 stack. You can make whatever stack you want. I can't see any merit to anything really other than a 4-3 or a 3-3, but there is some merit at least to doing a 3-3 stack. So keep it in mind what a 3-3 stack means, because you have 7 positions. It will take these 2 teams, 3 from the other team, and then 1 player. It could be from the teams you stacked, but it could also be from some other team. It's projection driven. So 3-3 stacks are interesting, but 4-3 stacks have been what has been winning. That could be because everybody's playing 4-3 stacks, and that's what it is. We don't know if those are the nuts lineups or just what wins, but it doesn't matter. It's been what's winning. But I do think there is some merit at least to consider 3-3 stacks. But for now, 4-3 is the standard, and that's what we're going to use. Now, the next part of our equation is we're going to set the teams that we want to allow to be used. Now, we just broke down the slate on a previous video. I don't want to get too deep into a slate breakdown. So all I'm going to do is disallow all of the LCK Korean teams. I'm going to leave all of the Chinese teams in here. Now, I'm doing that because the Chinese teams just score more according to our numbers as a thing. Now, let's just run it raw. Okay, and I want to show you what happens. As we run it raw, I set randomization to 50%. Now, actually, you know what? Let me run it without doing that. I want to show you the difference. I'm going to abort this one because I want to show you what this looks like. Without the randomization, what's going to happen is we'll get the same 2 teams in most of the stacks, right? So we add this. I want to show you how the difference that it makes. Okay. Now we're going to run it as it is. Now be aware, again, as you're watching this, this is a live stream. I don't have the benefit of being able to pause this video while I run these optimizations. So I'm going to fill some of this time with some chit chat and have a little fun. Talk about it. It moves kind of slow. So important notes. Again, we're looking at the beta server. When we take it to our real server, which is the most powerful kind of massive super server you can have, things will move a lot faster. And also this little bit of lagginess that you see in this video won't be here. But what's going on right now is we're creating stack lineups using the teams that are enabled. And what I expect will happen is that we're going to see the 2 sort of top value projected teams, and we can kind of see where the values are by clicking on fantasy points per dollar. You'll probably see some Killua shares in here, some LGD. So we'll probably get a lot of LGD based stacks just because the best value player is in LGD, and we disallowed DRX as a team to even be used. So it's going to be like LGD, BLG, and we. These will probably wind up as the teams that we see a lot of in the stacks. Let's take a look and see what came up. Now, First of all, here are your completed lineups. Now, one cool thing that you'll note is you can kind of color code. We color coded the teams so you can see the stack. Here we go. It's this and that, right? This and that. I don't love this. I like the idea of getting the captain from the 4 team, but that's not always how it works out. Kind of random. Now, one of the cool things is you can see all these different breakdowns. So according to these numbers, BLG is an 80%. And there's LGD with our boy Killua. He's probably like 100% owned based on his extreme value, right? We, SN, and RW. So it looks like it concentrated on BLG and LGD for this run. And you could see the 4 teams, BLG, LGD mainly, and LGD, BLG, and the 3 teams as well. And here you'll see the combinations. Everything is right here to be seen. So the most common stack it used, BLG and LGD, then some SN and we, BLG, SN, et cetera, et cetera. It shows you what you got. So I say what I want when I'm running stacks with all of these teams is I want much more diversification of the stacks that I'm running. So this is the first move. We can turn randomization up all the way to 50%, and hopefully that will randomize some things. But we have other ways of controlling it with min-max exposures. But let's start with increasing randomization all the way up to 50%. What that's going to do is A, probably slow down the process a little bit of running lineups, but B, create more of a variance between the teams that are being matched up against one another. Now, it might not be enough with that super bargain play with Killua and some of those 2 teams, LGD and at this point I forgot which was the other one that had a ton of exposure in the first run. But what this should do is mix that up a little bit more. Now, why do we want to mix it up? If we just played the 2 highest projected teams against one another every single time, you're just playing the chalk. Like, you're not going to win tournaments that way. The way you win esports tournaments is by hitting the right 2 teams together. Simple as that. 4 and 3. Get the right group. If you have 15 iterations of a stack out of 150, and that's the winning stack, there's a good chance that one of your iterations will be the winning iteration. Who was the proper captain? We haven't even gotten to controlling the captains yet. That's the next part. I wish this ran a little bit faster so I could get to that, but here, let's stop it right there. There we go. Now, 13 minutes in. All right, let's take a look at the combinations this time. And you see here, we have a much greater mix. Now we're getting a lot of SNWE, we're getting some RW, not nearly as much BLG across the board. Let's see which teams we got a lot of. We, SN. So this jacking up the randomization really changed the combinations that we wound up with, where now we're just kind of getting a better mix of all these different teams in our stacks. Now, you might not want to control it that way. There's another way to control it, and that's by using min-max exposure forcing. So let's say we is the favorite. I want at least 30% of them, but I also want to make sure that I get some exposure to the underdog in this game. Or actually, I think LGD is the favorite. Let's look. No, we is the favorite. So, I can set a min exposure on a team. I can set a min exposure on this team. They're an underdog. I can do that with Suning, 20%. Oh, I already did it there. There they are. They're an underdog. So that will force exposure across these teams. You can run it again. Now, the other important thing, controlling captain. Now, take a look at this. These are our captain exposures, right? You see, I've got some Kui up here. I've got a lot of missing. You're getting a lot of these support players. Wow, it's actually a really good mix. I really like this. This is a good way to do it. But if I want to control the captain position, I can do it right here using this tab. Now, somebody told me they didn't want teams under the captain role. Let's say you don't ever want a team to be a captain, which you should never want. you can zero out. You go to the captain tab. Okay, this is very, very important. You go to the captain tab. You can zero out any player you want. So they will never show up as a captain. All the teams, you can zero them out if you don't want them to, if you don't want to use them. Just zero them out. 0, 0, right? What does this do? This makes sure that I don't get any teams in my captain spot. Now, why wouldn't we want the team position in our captain spot? Because team is a very limited upside position. The best score that the team ever seems to put up is about 65 points. And it's rare that a captain at 65 points is good enough to win you a tournament. I haven't seen it yet, so don't use teams in the captain position, right? They have too limited upside. We can zero them out. You can also uncheck them. That works too. I uncheck you, right? Next up, when I look at my exposures, let's say I have Juan Fang 16%. Well, if I only want 10%, I can set a max on him. Similarly, if I love Kwee and I want a lot of captain, and I don't. But if I did, I can set him to 10%. So we can control the captain exposure right here using min exposure and max exposure limits or forced minimums. You have full control over this. Kiki, do you like me? On the grinding. That's my guy, Kiki. You control it, right? So look at this beautiful mix. Lots of captains. Again, each position group, you go through it one by one. You can control for exposures. Wow, that's a lot of Morgan. Maybe it's too much Morgan. Okay, you can set a limit. It's a lot of Bai Shang. I love Bai Shang. 34% might not be enough, but I love the guy. I'm a fan of Bai Shang. Teacherama, dude crushes. Want a lot of him. So here we go. You can control each position group. You can set a min or max exposure. Sub, team, whatever you got to do. That's a lot of Suning. It's a lot of Suning. You know why? Because they're super cheap. If they win, they're going to score well. If they lose, we don't care. We don't care. I'm only interested in the scores when they win. When you're done creating your lineups, I don't see any questions. So basic stuff, if you've used the DOM, most important thing, set your stack rules. Set your teams that you're going to allow. Uncheck the teams you don't want in stacks. And if you just want to if you don't want to mess with too much and just let Jesus take the wheel, as I like to say, and just roll with the projection system, you can do that too. You leave them all on. You just roll it out there. But I actually suggest controlling exposures a little bit, forcing mins on certain underdogs to make sure that you get that cross. The cross exposures between as many different teams as possible. Awesome tool. When you're ready to go, we run 150, we run 20, we run however many you want. The fewer lineups you make, the fewer teams I suggest allowing in your stacks. Like if I'm making 20 lineups, I always get this question. If I'm making 20 lineups, I only want a few teams. I really would get rid of all these Korean League teams, and I would stick with just the LPL teams, and I would just really narrow it down like that. You know, we've got our favorites. I want to get about 20% of each underdog, so I just set each of these to 25%, make 20 lineups, boom. Still leave the randomization on a little bit there, and hopefully we'll get a nice little mix of exposures here across 20 lineups, which we're comfortable putting in, a bigger contest. I'm going to show you the process of uploading the lineups here when we're done. I'm going to put these shits in. I'm using this. Whatever I'm doing right now. This run counts. Why am I, I forgot to do this. You don't need to see me. Here we go. 20 lineups created. Let's see what we got. Our combinations. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So we got 30% SN, WE. Let's look at our team exposures. What do we have too much of? WE and SN. Let me just see what's going on here. WE is a favorite. SN is an underdog. So SN, I don't want. See, when I see 40% of an underdog, I don't like it. So SN, let's see, their implied win probability is 250. It's about 35%. So, I could set a limit here. Now we run it again. What's going to happen? Now I'll only have 30% of Suning. I love Suning. I'm a fan. I'm a Suning fan. But I don't want to overload all of my lineups on one underdog with a 30% implied win probability. I do want to have exposure to them because when they win, they score really well, which is why they come up a lot. Yeah, there we go. But I want exposure to them, but I don't want 40, 50% of my lineups to be exposed to that one team. There are 3 underdogs on this card, so that are viable LPL underdogs. So I want to be about 25% each. That'll get me 75% of the underdog plays. And then hopefully 25% of my lineups will be 2 favorites in case favorites win. You can adjust how you want to approach that. That's kind of just a rule of thumb, one way I might approach it. I might do a little more favorite versus favorite. Not sure, but let's take it again. Look at the combinations. First, again, I look at the teams. Now we're up to 40%, 60%. Billy Games, LGD, RW. So you could look through this and control for your exposures, of course. TES is definitely a favorite. I don't like that they're only coming up as little as that in that run. So again, my next move is to make sure I get at least 20% of them. Here they're a favorite and they score really, really well. So, I mean, this is just stuff that you do slate specific, but you get the idea of how to use the tool here. You can control your exposures. You control which teams, what percentage, what combinations you wind up with. It will even show you which teams are in the 4-team player stack and which ones are in the 3-player stack. No matter what happens here, I'm going to roll with this. I want to show you how to download the lineups and upload them to DraftKings for anybody that hasn't done it. So we'll treat this as the last run. I'll have another tutorial for this maybe once it's fully complete and live on the server, hopefully in a few days. But the idea here was, let's get up and running. Let's get everybody using this thing. Check it out. Let me know if you find any sort of issues with it, of course. We're always, we're never sure. So again, let's look at the combination. There we go. Look at this nice mix. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I like this across the board. Download. So how do we get these onto DraftKings? I'm going to download the lineups. Every time you do a download, this number is consecutive. It's always higher than something you did before. So I'm always able to find it because it's the last one on the chart. So I go to lineups. I go to upload lineups, not edit, upload. We're going to upload from a CSV. I'm going to type in lineups. It's always going to be the last one on this list. You can also rename it if you want. Now the lineups have been uploaded. Let's go to the lobby. Now let's print us a $50,000 bill, right? When's it starting? Boom. Enter. Yes. We're good. That's it. That's how it's done. All right. Questions? Good luck, everyone. Hope you got some clarity with this video. Again, the link for the new Dom Station beta version of the League of Legends optimization tool is available in Slack. Probably go live either tomorrow or the next day on the main server, but we do like to test these things out before we go live. So that's where we're at today. Good luck tonight, everyone.